Good evening and welcome to this June 28, 2021 City Council work session. Thank you for joining us in this remote meeting format we're using in response to Governor Brown's Stay Home, Save Lives order. This format enables the City Council to meet and take care of business while keeping everyone safe. For sessions like this one, where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling into one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. Looking ahead, tonight's regular meeting will include the public forum and 3 public hearings. Information about how to participate is available on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. And as always, other avenues of communication with me and City Councilors are available, including email and voicemail. Thank you again for joining us. And with that, I'm going to turn it right over to the City Manager. We have a Police Commission annual report.
Quick question, Mayor?
Yes.
If I could, I'm so sorry. As the governor is going to lift the order that you referenced just a moment ago on Wednesday, will we begin to meet together soon?
I guess I'm going to let the manager respond to that question because she has more information.
Yeah, as I think I shared in the last council meeting, this topic came up. The mayor and I have been tentatively planning for September. Part of that has to do with that's when we thought everything was opening up. It was very consistent with what Springfield and Lane County are doing as well. I haven't heard that they've changed that, so it's possible that we could do that. We talked about trying to get together for at least one meeting and maybe a dinner before you go on break. One issue we're going to face is the construction and technology upgrades to kind of get your council chamber in order is not going to be ready even in early September, just because of how hard it is to get construction done right now. But we will be ready, I think, in the work session room. So some of that's not ready to go yet. That just makes it a little bit more complicated.
Just thought the general public should know that. Thank you.
So thank you. I am looking forward to tonight's meeting and report on the annual work plan of the Police Commission. I'm joined tonight by Jeremy Cleversey and several members of the Police Commission leadership. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy and let him do all the introductions and kick us off.
City Manager, thank you, Madam Mayor and councilors. The leadership is very honored to be here tonight and excited to speak with you. Sean Shivers, who is the Police Commission Chair, has been with the Police Commission now for 3 years. And after the conclusion of his first year, he was selected to be the chairman. And he has walked the Police Commission through this entire report that he's going to be reviewing with you, that 2-year biennial report. And then following that, he had, Vice Chair Commissioner V. Wen, who joined him in leadership 10 months ago. He's been on the Police Commission for 2 years, but he joined him in leadership 10 months ago. The two of them just led the Police Commission through their annual retreat in developing their work plan that they have to share with you for the next 2 years. They have to share with you tonight, and they're very excited to do that. So with that, Sean, I'm going to hand this over to you, sir. Sean, I can't hear you.
Thank you. First off, I'll start sharing my screen. I also wanted to thank you all for inviting us here, and thank you, Jeremy, for that warm introduction. Dallas Boggs will be taking over as chair after me. So I have been extremely proud of the work the commission has done and my role in that. And I wanted to thank you all. I'll still be around, but I wanted to let you know up front, I might not be able to answer all of your questions on how we're going to accomplish the work plan for the next 2 years when we get that. V, do you have anything you want to say before I start this off?
No, I'll let you go on.
Excellent. So sharing the screen, everybody can see that okay, I hope. Fabulous. So to start off with, we have three main topics on the agenda tonight for the Police Commission. The first one is a review of the work we've done over the past 2 years on the last work plan you approved. The second one is bringing to you the work plan for the next 2 years, which carries some of those things from the first work plan that we didn't manage to accomplish into the new biennium. And the third one is a resolution recommendation that was passed at this month's Police Commission meeting in regards to downtown safety. So to start off with, most of this will be familiar to you. Page 4 is the list of work things that were on the last work plan. Many of the things we accomplished were part of the emergent issues work plan. Obviously, with COVID-19 and the civil unrest following the murder of George Floyd, our priorities as a commission have expanded, and we've risen to the occasion. So on page 6, I'd like to call, of all the glorious work we've done, of quite a lot of work that this commission and the previous commission managed to accomplish, there are a couple of things which we did not. So I try not to be super negative, but I wanted to let you know, because you'll see a couple of things jumping out at you. One is that the spillover to neighborhoods does not have a check mark next to it. We found when we started looking into it, the idea behind this objective was to see how enforcement, particularly downtown, might cause issues to spill into the surrounding neighborhoods. But when we looked at downtown, we found a patchwork of confusing enforcement jurisdictions that made actual investigation of these issues nearly impossible. So that's what the recommendation that I will talk about at the end is in regards to. But I wanted to call that out specifically. Another couple of these things are marked down as to be determined. And that is because they are being carried forward on the current work plan. So in particular, the domestic violence on the on page 10, Chief and Deputy Chief Jepson have a working model for a domestic violence task force that they brought to the Police Commission when we learned that COVID-19 was exacerbating an already growing problem of domestic violence without the traditional avenues for addressing these things, such as school reporting and mandatory reporters. Domestic violence was high on our list of priorities in the emerging issues. We have begun this work. Let me get to page 10. We've begun this work with a presentation from Deputy Chief, as well as a discussion with Chief Skinner, as well as last night when we looked at the domestic violence policy. But this actual task force has not been spun up yet, so you will see it on our next work plan to continue that work over the next 2 years. So to jump to that, page 12, if you're following along in the packet, here is our list of our top 14 priorities that we developed at our work plan retreat. You'll see, what was it, number 10 is the domestic violence and sexual assault. Officer wellness and mental health topped the list yet, along with the call center policy, procedure, and prioritization. We recognize that a lot of these conversations are going to be difficult, and I'm very happy that we've got the commission that we do, and we have so many new faces who will be here for a while, because I've learned in my time that some of this work doesn't go quite as fast as we want, so that continuity is very important. To move on to the final thing, the recommendation to City Council about creating these enforcement areas into a single unified district, if you will. I don't have the right language, and I try not to make recommendations about how City Council does this. I don't feel like it's our role to determine that sort of thing, but I wanted to let you know that there's a problem. So I discovered this problem when I went on a walk along downtown with Sergeant Julie Smith, who's since retired. And on this walk along, we were traveling down the street, and it seemed like every 10 10 steps, the rules changed. Whether it was smoking no longer being allowed here or it being allowed again, whether it was the dog leash mandates or no bicycles on the sidewalks, it created and here's a map on the next page. It creates a very confusing patchwork that we expect our citizens and our officers to understand. That's why the Police Commission is recommending creating a more coherent district to simplify things and decrease misunderstandings. Even in this picture, there are the bicycle ban, the smoking ban, and the dog leash mandate are not pictured in this picture. This only includes the neighborhood district, which we might not want to change, the operational zone, the reporting area, the safety zone, and the watch area. Some of those are internal police administrative districts, but the lack of clarity in these rules creates a situation that I think the City Council can improve police service on. And that is why the Police Commission recommended it be sent to you. So are there any questions on the work we've performed, the work plan proposal, or the motion, it's not a motion, on the recommendation for creating a coherent downtown enforcement zones?
Thank you, Sean and V, and the entire commission really very much appreciate your report. And I look forward to these reports every year because they're so detailed and informative, and it's incredibly helpful. So, and I appreciate this recommendation. It looks like we have Alan in the queue. So Alan, I'll let you chime in here.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Sean, and thank Dee for the vice chair and for an excellent presentation and excellent staff support from Jeremy Cleversey to help the commission get a lot of work done. The Planning Commission, which Councilor Ye and I sit on as council liaisons, is distinguished from the Civilian Review Board in that we review the policies and the procedures that the police department has. And over time, the Police Commission has reviewed all the different policies, all the hundreds of policies that they have. And very timely process, actually, given recent events. So in 2019, there were 9 policies that we reviewed. And in 2020, there were 5, and they were on public assemblies and demonstrations, civil disturbances, field force, pepper balls, and handcuff controls and impact weapons, which were all very timely given the events in 2021. And that's the important work that the Police Commission does, and probably continue to do with the ad hoc committee on police policies. We'll probably be giving the Police Commission more of this type of work. So I think the work plan is really well done. We spent a Saturday doing that and voting on the different things that will be the high priority ones for us. Did I mention it was on a Saturday? I think a long Saturday. And there was a lot of good discussion over many hours about where we should put our time and effort. And I think the list of things in priority order, not necessarily that we'll do them 1 through 14, but those are the things that the commission thought we should be working on. I think they're the right things that we should be working on. And then finally, the last thing that Sean was touching on was there's that diagram we have. In downtown, we have 8 special areas for enforcement of different kinds of rules. And they're all completely different boundaries. And it's very confusing. I think sometimes even the police have trouble figuring out which ones are what they're supposed to be where and what. If you take a step over on the other side of the street, the rules don't apply, and they do over here. And so that's kind of confusing. I think it's something that the council should look at and figure out if it's something we want to change. Other than that, thanks for the report. Thanks to all the commissioners we've got a really good group of people on there that spend a lot of time and effort just painstakingly going through the word by word police policy with the chief and the deputy chief and Jeremy and the rest of the folks at the police department. And I think that this work is going to become even more important.
Thank you. Randy and then Claire.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Sean, V, and Jeremy, and all the members of the Police Commission for this impressive body of work. An impressive body of work during an extraordinary year. I think, I don't know that we've seen a year that could be more difficult than what we have just gone through. And yet I feel that the commission has really thrived during this period. I also want to thank police staff for being open and working on this. I think it takes everybody working together to build the system that we all ultimately want to see. I'm very interested in making those downtown enforcement districts more cohesive. I appreciated what Councilor Zelenka said about that and how you phrased it, Sean. I'll look forward to that work coming back and figuring out how we can simplify things. It's hard not to violate rules if you don't know exactly where they apply. And I recognize it makes it difficult for our officers to try to achieve compliance. I also was very happy to see officer wellness and mental health at the top of the list. And I say this just because I know from experience that stressed employees are more likely to make poor decisions. And one of the best things we can do is watch for that and help it. I know I saw it in the fire department frequently. After certain calls, people just reacted differently. And Sean, I especially want to thank you for your leadership this past year as chair of the commission. And as you step down here, I'm just curious, what are you particularly proud of that was accomplished in this past year, in a year of actually quite a few accomplishments?
Yeah, thank you. There are really three things that come to mind. One extends even before, before I was chair, but specifically at the last, when I became chair for the first time and I attended one of these meetings, Greg Evans asked me why he didn't see the police commission at First Friday Communities of Color. So with COVID, those meetings have stopped, but it was one piece of an outreach model and a priority that not just myself, but the entire commission embarked on, reaching out to the public. And I think part of the reason that was so important, and it was so important that we started early and we didn't wait for tragedy to strike. We started reaching out to folks well before that. And we saw that really come to fruition when George Floyd was murdered, and we had hundreds of people in our meetings to give public comment. And later, when the mayor opened the application process, we saw a record numbers of applicants and record numbers of applicants from a huge swath of backgrounds. So the second piece that I'm very proud of is the appointment of the new commissioners. We have commissioners from all walks of life, not just racial diversity, economic diversity, and diversities of experience that I believe is unseen in Eugene's history. And I think that will outlive my time on the commission. And hopefully that, sorry to say, but I hope that outlives all of us. I think it is an excellent step forward. So I'm very proud of myself, Terry Robertson, and eventually Silver Mogart for doing the hours of work necessary to make those recommendations, to weed through those applications and select folks. And the final one is just keeping things going during COVID. Our work continued pretty seamlessly, and I think Jeremy and V deserve equal accolades in that accomplishment, as well as the entire city staff. But it's good our work didn't pause just because the world did.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claire, and then Emily.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sean and V and Jeremy and the rest of the commission, our two counselors who serve on the commission, for this tireless and important work. Sometimes unrecognized by the community in terms of the fact that we have this strong citizen police commission that is advisory to our chief of police. And I was really impressed with the outcomes of, this past year, and also really gratified with the goals, the priority areas that you've set for the coming year. I feel like it reflects the diversity that Sean was just speaking to in terms of who's on the commission. And I know all the new members aren't necessarily seated yet, but so it's amazing. And as Councilor Zelenka pointed out, not only meeting the once a month, but meeting on a Saturday for a full day retreat, which is not how a lot of people would want to spend one of their precious Saturdays. So really appreciate that. And then I did notice the hours of time that you guys logged around making recommendations on future candidates for the commission. So I assume that was because you had a ton of applicants to read through and perhaps even interview. I really appreciate and hope that the commission will continue to see how the community engagement works in terms of holding your formal meetings outside of the police headquarters. And I'm so pleased to see the progress that was made in connecting the commission in a more robust way to officers, and the meetings you had with various leaders of different different task force and areas of operations. That's been a long time goal of the commission. I know when Councilor Clark and I served on the commission, that was talked about, and we were unsure of kind of how to make that happen. And you guys have obviously figured that out. And then I noticed your goal around diversity, equity, and inclusion to have quarterly informational sessions. And so are those for the commission that you want those information sessions?
Yeah, so the commission, particularly in the first year, was very successful at getting these informational sessions. In the second year, with the new commission's the new applications and the emerging issues, I asked the commission to attend the city's belonging training to supplement our individual understandings of those goals, as well as focus on the work that needed to be done to achieve what we said we would do.
Yeah, excellent. You anticipated one of my questions. Thanks. And then lastly, I support the recommendation around the downtown zone. Obviously, that's an operational thing that city manager and the chief needs to look at. But I was curious about the dog leash mandate, because I thought there was a leash mandate throughout the entire city. So I'm not sure what the distinction is for downtown.
So I believe there are enhanced fines in place in the downtown area, but I'm not 100% sure. And the fact that I'm not 100% sure is part of the problem, honestly.
Well, I wasn't actually expecting you to answer that question.
Oh, sorry.
That question, but that makes sense. What you're sharing rings the bell. So thank you very much. Thanks so much for all your great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Emily, and then Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor. Wow, thank you, Police Commission. Put in a lot of hours. I unfortunately only listened to one of your meetings, but it was very impressive. And the way that you were able to swing your attention during COVID, since that, stirred everything up, you did a really good job of that. And also, like everybody else, those hours you put in to interview people, I couldn't ask for a better effort towards equity and inclusion. So kudos on that. I'm downtown a lot, and boy, there are too many boundaries. It's pretty crazy making. So I don't like all the boundaries, me, but I do think it would be great if they were coalesced into something. I wouldn't mind if at that time we also revisited the smoking ban, which was pretty much ignored and not well signed, and I don't think it's looking as well as it might. And also those boundaries, we don't just have the police, we have the red caps, and we have really helpful ambassadors. So, and we have people who want to know where they can smoke or can't do the things for the different zones. So really hard to enforce and really hard to obey. Thank you for putting that on the list, and all the rest of your goals for next year. If you perform the way you did this year, we're in for a good bunch of help.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Mayor. So I just wanted to take this last opportunity to thank Sean and V, who you may be transitioning into different roles on our commission, and to Jeremy too. I think Sean was right when he talked about what he's most proud of. One of the things I think Sean and V have done an excellent job on is leading by example, both in being the first to volunteer for our outreach, whether it's tabling or other things there. I know when I show up, they're always there. They have sessions, just, you know, and that's the kind of leadership I think that is really valuable. And just both of them during difficult situation with COVID, welcoming all the new folks who didn't get to meet any of us in person and had to deal with us on a screen, doing not easy work, sometimes very detailed, and you guys, I mean, obviously did a good job, because I feel like the commission is working very well together, even though we haven't been able to meet in person and do some of that trust building, right? We've had to do it on Zoom. So I want to thank you too. And I look forward, I'm glad you're still going to be around, but I want to thank you for your time as leaders.
Thank you. Oh, and Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Mayor. I didn't want to miss the opportunity to thank Sean for his leadership on the commission, and for staff for putting together a stellar report. Thank you, V. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, team. I am wondering, as we transition to more open in-person opportunities and start meeting together in person, how has the commission had a conversation about still utilizing the digital space, Sean, to allow for maximum participation online?
Yes, there's been a strong preference expressed for keeping the lessons we've learned and building on them. So one of our goals was, outreach to neighborhoods, and we had rotating meeting locations. In all of those meeting place changes, we had maybe half a dozen people show up who were not regulars. However, with Zoom inclusion, we've had hundreds of people show up. Part of that is, world events, but we've also seen just higher consistent attendance and easier access. So, I won't be chair anymore, but the commission itself has expressed a strong preference for keeping those in place.
That's great. And if I could also just kind of hone in on your top 14 priorities for 22-23, officer wellness and mental health. It was referenced as officer wellness and officers' mental health. I'm assuming that's the intent, but that's curious and also inspiring that came to the top of the conversation. And so it would be premature to ask, I think, what you look forward to in that realm. But I'll give you the opportunity to comment on it if need be. If not, I just want to voice that I'm looking forward to that particular conversation in 2022-23.
Yeah, I mean, as an individual, I'm very excited for the conversation as well. I don't want to speak about how it'll be done. I don't want to step on any toes or get ahead of myself. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm glad that there's been the recognition of its importance and the difficult job that police officers do and how we can support that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And I see the manager has her hand raised.
Only if everyone else is done going. I wanted to just make sure of that. Looks like they were.
I think everyone's had a round,
okay.
So I think you're good.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, Councilor Syred had said, this seems really operational and the manager and chief can figure it out. And there's actually quite a number of code changes that I think are embedded in those boundary changes. Each one of those has had separate council conversations, separate reasons for carving out certain areas. And so I agree that there's a number of them out there, but putting them together in one contiguous is actually a lot of work and a lot of your time too. So I just want to make sure that's really clear, because we'll probably want to see a work session poll or something coming forward as part of this work.
Yeah, I thank you for that sort of perspective on what it might take to do that, but it seems like a good conversation. So, and I also just want to close this and also, you know, pile on the praise for Sean and V and the rest of the commissioners, and for Jeremy as staff support. I just thinking about where we were a year ago and the height of racial justice protests and the pressure to be responsive, and reopening that application process for police commission, and your willingness to, you know, really dive in and interview that. And you interviewed everybody, and you were thoughtful and consistent about it. And you know, in the end, appointed just really excellent candidates through all that process, which speaks well of your process, and that have been so productive this year. Just speaks well of all of you and your leadership and what you've done, and really our gratitude, because I think the police commission, your longstanding role in this community and the work that you performed this year has really helped us come through a very, as Randy mentioned, has really helped us come through an extraordinarily difficult and painful year, and land in some solid places for you know, improvement, and in a very thoughtful, deliberative, and respectful way. So I'm really, really grateful to you for your work and for this report that encapsulates it all and is very easy to read and understandable. So thank you for that. And if there are no,
one thing before I go off, and that is at the end of last year, before COVID hit, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and so I really want to thank Jeremy and V, because we could not have done this without both of you. And since this is my last public appearance as chair, I wanted to make sure that got fully acknowledged.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you for sharing that. And we wish you the best in addressing your health issues. And thank you for your contribution to the community. So with that, I think we are finished with this agenda item. And the next agenda item is the auditor's report and the CRB. And I'm actually turning that directly over to the interim police auditor, Leah.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors. Thank you for inviting us to report on our work. My plan is to go through the auditor report fairly quickly and then move on to Bernadette Conover is here from the CRB to present their report. We're happy to answer any questions you have. I also have Beatrice here from our office in case you have questions about community engagement things, because that is her wheelhouse. And as much as I've tried to stay on top of every single thing, she's probably better for some of those questions. So I was realizing as Councilor Zelenka was talking, I usually give this 3 pillars of community oversight speech, and I've given it so often that I think I didn't include it here. So just a quick overview for the people watching at home. Eugene has a very special system of community oversight of police. We have 3 pillars, 3 things, 3 pillars of community oversight. One is the police commission. They offer community input into police policy. There's the auditor's office. We are full-time staffed office of civilians. We are employed separate from the city. We're independent of the rest of city government, and I report directly to you, or whoever is in my office reports directly to you. And then the Civilian Review Board is staffed by volunteers to oversee the work of our office and the work of internal affairs. And just to be clear, so that when they review a case, they review the entire investigative file, video, police reports, investigative reports, all of it. So with that quick intro, I will jump in and just do a really high-level overview of our report. I'm going to try to share my screen. Please shout if it doesn't work. All right, is that going? Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback. All right, so the annual report is divided up into 3 main sections. One is our 2020 accomplishments. Then the areas of focus for the next couple of years. That should say 21 and 2022, of course. I missed something. And then the statistics for the last year. We also include appendices that do a quick overview of every complaint we received over the years. So if you have any questions on anything, any of those, feel free to ask, but we put as much information as we can. So the main body of work over the last year was our community impact case, looking into EPD's response to the community demonstrations over the last weekend of May of last year. That was a huge case, and the final part of it was actually reviewed last month at the CRB. The bulk of it was reviewed in December. There are a couple of straggler items. So I'm working on a report to council and to the community that just goes over everything that we did for that community impact case. It was over 650 hours of video. It was a lot of work. So we'll come back to that. We did some deadly force investigations. We worked with the ad hoc committee on police policy. We provided staff support for the civilian review board and did significant community outreach, even in the face of a pandemic. Our issues for the coming years are we're working on accessibility. I'll talk about that a little bit more. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to improve the administrative portion of deadly force investigations and also hopefully work on the IDFIT structure. Work on those recommendations from the ad hoc committee. Work on an early intervention system with the police department, collaborate with the police department on that. We have some COVID-related challenges ongoing and personnel changes. So we'll talk a little bit more about all of those. Please jump in if you have questions. I can take them anytime. So as I mentioned, the community impact case, this was the largest investigation we've ever taken on in our office. It was huge. EPD provided significant staff support, and the CRB, I have to say, contributed just huge amounts of volunteer hours to review that case. I was very grateful for their thorough work, and I'm sure Bernadette will mention it more, but that was a huge amount of work for a lot of people. The final portion, like I said, was reviewed last month, and we will get a report out on the whole thing. There were 3 deadly force incidents in 2020, and 1 other additional use of force was designated for review by a use of force board. And we've had 2 of those boards meet. There's been a bit of a delay just because of the huge amount of work from the community impact case. So those are ongoing. And then community meetings was another large part of our work. So working with the ad hoc committee to talk about the system that we already have in place, answer questions that they have, and then support the CRB through that huge community impact case review. And they covered 9 investigations into allegations of misconduct, as well as 3 incident reviews. They also appointed 2 subcommittees to look at CRB bylaws and the CRB meeting process. So we provided staff support for all of that. It was a big year, as we all know. Community outreach, I kind of divided it into 2 large areas. One was information distribution. Our office helped provide bilingual support for the Emergency Operations Center during all of the emergencies of last year, including translation of city manager updates, COVID-19 community updates, holiday farm fire updates, and then updates that we pushed out to the public about the community impact case and actual curfew information during the time of most of the demonstrations. Beatrice also worked with the Aquí en la Ciudad Language Access Project through a partnership with the Human Rights Neighborhood Involvement Office, which is a weekly Spanish online news segment. We worked on Hispanic Heritage Month. We worked on We Count Oregon. Mark Gissner, the auditor, and our CRB member presented at the City Club about community oversight in Eugene. And then we also have regular attendance at a lot of different community group meetings. So this is, like I said, an overview. Our goals for next year, I've talked with many of you about a lot of these already, but accessibility, we're working on a website update so we can have a community portal and really allow people to access all the information about their complaints and status updates online without having to come in or check a mailbox, because that is really hard for people to do sometimes. We're working on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we continue our community outreach to establish trust and meaningful community relationships. We're looking to establish a DEI officer position, which would be housed in the auditor's office, but with full access, with the access that we all have to EPD, to analyze and report on DEI trends in public safety and collaborate on solutions. And that all comes under our purview through the ordinance allows us to report on trends at EPD. So that's where that fits. Deadly force investigations, like I mentioned, we are working with EPD to improve how administrative investigations are conducted following uses of deadly force. And then we want to continue to advocate for improvement to the IDFIT system. This is the first time I've ever had 2 slides for goals and challenges. So I don't know what that says, but here we are. So obviously you all have appointed me and the city manager and the municipal court judge to look at the recommendations of the ad hoc committee. So we are working on that and working on providing a path forward. I want to continue to strengthen our role as a city, as a leader in community oversight. We have some COVID-related challenges ongoing as far as community engagement. So we are looking to return our public safety forums in the spring of next year. And that's to work with our staffing and with getting people together in a public forum. And then we have some personnel changes. So we're trying to bring on new team members. We're all working remotely, despite me being in the office right now. So bringing on new team members during COVID is going to be an interesting challenge. I'm looking forward to it, really looking forward to it. Here are some statistics. We received 407 complaints in 2020. It was an 8.7% decrease, but that decrease was from an all-time high in 2019. So we're still higher than our usual. All these numbers are here, but our allegations increased by about 15%. I suspect part of that is at least due to all the allegations from that community impact case. It's not that we had a lot more instances of potential misconduct. It's that we looked really deeply at that weekend. And obviously walk-ins dropped in a bit since we closed our office to walk-ins in March, but email complaints increased in what looks to be a similar proportion. This is, like I said, our total complaints over the years have a definite positive upward trend. So I think even with our office closed, we still received a lot of complaints last year. These are our allegations of misconduct. This is always confusing. We had 33 cases where allegations of misconduct was alleged, and 3 cases where criminal conduct was alleged. Those all included 71 specific potential allegations of policy violations against 34 EPD employees. So of all the department, it was 34 employees who we investigated thoroughly in one of these investigations. 21 of 33 resulted in a sustained allegation against 1 or more employees, and 21 employees were found to have committed the 33 specific sustained allegations. I know that one's confusing. I always get questions on it, so please feel free to jump in. I've got to figure out a better way to present that. And then these are our incident reviews, inquiries, policy, and service complaints. So we started incident reviews as a category in 2016, which is why these numbers start in 2016. But they've kind of gone up and down, and they're always in a similar proportion, and that's where we are. I see Councillor Keating has a question. Should I do this, Mayor, or should you do that? Sorry.
You can wait until you finish your presentation, and then I'll call on councilors.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. And that was actually my last slide. So I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone. Thank you.
Okay, well, in that case, we are ready for Matt to ask his question.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Leah, for the presentation. I raised my hand as soon as she said, feel free to jump on in, because I had a question exactly on the thing you were talking about. If we can go back to page 9, but quickly page 3 as well, because there's 2 things that I wanted to hone in on. In particular, on page 9, there are 13 complaints surrounding the use of force. And on page 3, in addition to the deadly force investigations, there was only 1 non-lethal use of force complaint that was advanced to that use of force oversight board. Or my language is a little clunky because I don't have the graphic in front of me.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
There's a difference of 12. What's
Right.
that? What triggers
is
the
that?
process to get that one in front of that board, and why were the other 12 not?
Right. So for the most part, uses of force are adequately and thoroughly investigated by an IA investigation. And that's how they are handled. In that particular case that was initially, I will say also, it was initially appointed to a use of force board, and we've since decided to change how we're going to investigate it because of later actions that occurred when the person was in custody of a different agency. And so we wanted to take a deep look at that to really see what EP officers had contributed to that. And over time, it was one of those where initially we thought it should be going before a use of force board. And then after the close of 2020, in collaboration with the chief and the deputy chief, we've agreed to look at it without a use of force board. So it's kind of strange because it's flipped back. But does that answer your question at all?
Yeah, to a degree. There's still a difference of 12. And I can think of a couple here in South Eugene that constituents have reached out to me about their perspective and their take. What would it be in the municipality and the department's interest if that particular board were to look at all those allegations or all those force complaints, or a higher threshold of those force complaints? If there are 13 and just one of them is being reviewed, I'm trying to wrap my head around why there's a difference of 12.
Sure, I understand that. I think so. I'm going to explain sort of how both of those processes work, and then I'll give you my opinion. Does that help? Okay. So in the use of force review board, what happens is usually it occurs when there's been a use of deadly force. So there's an IDFIT investigation, which is an interagency team that does a criminal investigation. That is followed up and padded a bit by an administrative investigation, which is then presented to the use of force board, which is consisting of, there's a training sergeant and the IA sergeant and the supervising sergeant and a captain. And it's a bunch of people at EPD. And then I am a non-voting member, and the communications supervisor is a non-voting member. So that is use of force board as per EPD policy. The other way, an IA investigation, and in particular, these IA investigations, a lot of them were part of the community impact case, so I'm gonna have to talk about that a little bit too, but are investigated by internal affairs with the input and oversight and participation of the auditor's office. So that means I'm collaborating with the IA investigator, probably more than they would like, to talk about questions to ask and how that's getting investigated. That then, the supervisor offers an adjudication recommendation, and so do I. And then the chief gets to decide based on both of those recommendations. And on the wrinkle of the community impact case, the CRB gets to weigh in before that final adjudication as well. So I'm going to say, in my opinion, I'm more comfortable with the IA process for those kinds of investigations because I think I have more input and I have more ability to make sure my questions are answered. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your perspective and your point of view. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate your questions.
Thank you. Claire.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Leah and Beatrix, and the rest of your staff. I know there's at least one other person.
Right? Vicky is amazing.
So you guys have been total heroes throughout this process, along with the Civilian Review Board, but we'll hear from Bernadette in a couple minutes. I appreciate you reminding the community about those 3 pillars. I think they're really important. And I'll just add that your office and the Civilian Review Board were created by Citizen Chart Initiative. So your office was stood up by this community in response to some, really bad lack of accountability that we had in our department at the time. And I think what Mark created and now what Leah, you're carrying forward is, I believe, a very robust civilian oversight model. You are completely independent from the city manager and the police. You are your own agency, as you pointed out, who reports to this council directly as our employee. So the work and the work that you are doing yourselves is quite amazing. And I really especially want to appreciate Beatrix for your role during COVID in terms of being part of incident command and helping our Spanish-speaking community members be informed about what was going on during a really, really scary time. So I just wanted to say that. On a particular item, I'm glad to see, and this was both in the police commission's list of things, that your office is taking up the deadly force investigation process, otherwise known as IDFIT. I took note when the organization that was hired by the family who lost a loved one to a deadly force incident in Springfield, when that organization gave their report to the city of Springfield, they noticed some real flaws in that process. And I know that our former police auditor, Mark Gisner, also found it very lacking as well. So this is something that I want to see improved, that I'm paying attention to, and would very much, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you all surface along with Chief Skinner in terms of what might be improved there. And then I was just curious, and I don't know if you know the answer, Leah, or if city manager or the chief can tell us. So we had 34 individual officers who were investigated. I will need a second round to ask this question.
Okay, that's fine. I will turn it over to Jennifer.
Thanks, Mayor. So thanks, Leah. I appreciate this report. It's really great. I don't know that I enjoyed reading it is the right thing to say, but it was very easy to read. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I wanted to say I really like your idea of a DEI officer. I think that's really smart and a really good time to start looking at that. So I really appreciate that. I wanted to ask Beatrice, I know before COVID, you were doing some really exciting and very successful outreach stuff. I know you even partnered with the police commission, and we really appreciate you inviting us to table with you. That was great. So, and I'm wondering, as we kind of someday go back to normal, if you're planning to start that up again, or what can we expect?
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. Like we said in our report, outreach was probably one of the biggest shifts that we had to do, like everybody else. You know, during this past year, we went from meeting at public events so often to just having to do everything online. And the goal, like Leah stated earlier, is to start the public safety forums again next early spring, which is the biggest event that our office holds. But also, as we return back to normal, what we could call normal, is to start again partnering with Police Commission, if you guys would be willing to do that. And anytime that city councilors want to join or know of community events, we're more than happy to partner and continue to form that bridge between the communities. So we're excited to start that again when it's acceptable and when community feels comfortable attending in-person events again. So I see Sean giving a thumbs up.
Yeah, I think Sean's into it. Yeah, no, I got to go to some of those tables and I really appreciated it. I appreciate how you had them all set up and you had all the things, and folks really did come out, and it was surprising how little folks understood of the 3 pillars that Leah was talking about before. It's, you know, I think a lot of us take it for granted that that's just how our system works, but there's still a lot of folks out there who just don't quite understand it. And being able to educate folks is so important. And lastly, I just want to thank Leah. I think actually your whole staff for being involved with the ad hoc committee. I know that took probably a lot of time and preparation and had a lot of questions, and some of them probably very hard to answer and think about it. And I appreciate your willingness. So, you know, so willing to just do whatever you could. So thanks so much.
Thank you. It was really illuminating to be part of that. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other counselors with hands raised, and we want to turn this over for the CRB, but I do want to just extend my own words of thanks and appreciation for this report, which I do find very interesting and very elucidating, and really appreciate your team, Leah and Beatrice and Vicky, and Mark carried you through much of 2020 as well, and recognizing in particular, since Mark's retirement, that you've had to carry this short-staffed with, this layers of responsibility to keep ongoing investigations going, take on new things, and very much sort of appreciate your capacity to rise to the occasion. And I very much appreciate your list of sort of priorities looking ahead. And I realize that Claire needs a second round. And so I will turn over to Claire and let her have her second round.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a pretty brief question just for proportions sake. So the report notes that there were 34 individual officers who ended up being investigated, and I didn't look at how many of those were sustained versus not, but some portion would be sustained and some not. And so I just wanted to ask, and maybe Chief Skinner's the right person to answer this question, out of how many employees who might be in a position to interact with the public does that represent? 34 out of 300?
Councilor Syret, I want to apologize for my lack of video, but I certainly want to be able to answer your question. So it's hard to say because we have different work groups that interact with the public in different ways. So you think about the total sworn when we're fully realized, and we're down about 10 positions now, fully realized at about 202 sworn positions. That includes me all the way down to the very newest police officer that we've hired that maybe isn't even out of training yet. We try to run about 80 to 85 in patrol, and that's plus or minus depending on how things are going with injuries and vacancies. And then you have a complement of about 45 to 48 in detectives that have their own unique interactions, and then your traffic team. So and then other investigators. So my best guess would be that's probably, because it involves our field supervisors as well, it really is about 160 to 175 police officers that have interactions that could generate those types of complaints. And just as a reminder, these are complaints that also involve dispatchers and our professional staff. So this is total EPD staff that is subject to auditors' oversight. And so that's, in north of 300 individuals that are interacting at some level with the public that could generate a complaint.
Great, that's kind of what I thought. So I appreciate you offering that kind of on the fly. You weren't expecting me to ask that question. So thanks. I just wanted for all of us to have a sense of proportion of how many that means within a relatively large department.
And sorry, I ran a quick check, and that definitely included some non-sworn employees last year. And if I can break that number out for you if you'd like, and not right now, but in the future. Thank you.
Matt.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't want this to land the wrong way, Councilor Syret. So my apologies ahead of time if it does. The only thing I heard there that I have a question about is, I believe you referenced a relatively large department, and I don't know if our department is relatively large for our media market size or our municipality size. I suspect it's probably on the low side, but as a whole, yes, I hear you. I think yes, it's a valid point, and it's not lost on me or anyone listening. I just wanted to maybe get a better sense of when we say a relatively large department. It's a small number compared to a relatively large amount of persons, but not necessarily a relatively large department.
Claire?
Yeah, I guess I meant within the context of our government. But then again, I don't know how much, how many people work in public works. I don't know. So I'm making assumptions. I meant within our own city government, not compared to other cities.
It's definitely larger than my department. So, sorry.
Well said, well said. So with that, I think we're ready to hear from the CRB and from Bernadette.
Mayor, council members, and members of the community that might be here as well. Thank you for allowing me to present on behalf of the Civilian Review Board. I hope you've had a chance to look at the 2020 annual report. As you may have noticed, it was much longer than our usual report. We felt that in light of the events of the last year, it was important to give you a long view of the work that our board has been doing. The first thing I'd like to note is the tremendous amount of work, the very important work that we as the civilian volunteers do and have done over the last year. The ordinance requires that we meet 4 times a year, and every year that I have been on this board, we have met a minimum of 8 times, usually 10 times. And each month, the amount of materials review is sizable. Pages of reports, hours of audio and video. The community impact case itself, as Leah said, was hundreds of pages and hundreds of hours. We, of course, did not watch 600 hours of video that was captured by in-car videos and cameras, but we relied upon the internal affairs workers and the auditor's office to give us the highlights and where to look, because some of the cameras were on for hours and hours on end, but there was only probably, a 3 to 12 minute video that we actually needed to review. The community impact case itself was over that 3-day period. So we reviewed a lot of things. In addition to reviewing the materials and having discussions, we then undertake to recommend how we believe that the police can better police in our community, and how our community can better understand the job of policing and why they undertake the actions that they have taken. Not a meeting goes by that we don't remember how lucky we are here in Eugene to have the partnership between the Eugene Police Department and Cahoots. It's definitely a model that we have seen other communities starting to look at around the United States. It is a model that we are very proud to say is in our community. I was on the board when we had our first community impact case over 10 years ago. So giving the council that long view just seemed appropriate. We wanted to highlight the work that the board has done and the changes that have come about in policing, we think partly as a review of our cases. Oftentimes, the reviews have initiated the police department to look and make some changes, and other times we recommend recommendations to the police commission that then looks at various policies. What stands out is the evolution of policing. That crisis intervention training was once only for the officers that we thought were going to be involved in crisis situations. And then when it was recognized that crisis intervention and de-escalation training were necessary for all officers, and much like driving and firearms training are required by officers each and every year. I remember when I was first on the board back in 2009, we were having a training about police officers driving, and it was a driving instructor. And he told us about the number of accidents that happened right after they put anti-lock brakes in all the police cars. I think many of you are probably old enough to remember what it was like to drive before anti-lock braking. And so we saw that there had to be a shift in how officers were driving. And the new officers adjusted much more quickly because they hadn't had the years of driving without the anti-lock braking system. So we as a board continue to look and see how newer officers shift much more rapidly, and senior officers, they take a little bit longer, but eventually they also understand the changes that need to be made. So we recognize the incremental improvements that are being made. One of the things, the in-car video shifted to body cameras. And it started with body cameras just on a few officers, the downtown officers. And now I believe every officer has body-worn cameras. Muting the conversations during contact and trying to slow encounters down has been the one place that we continue to see the need for improvement by the officers. But as we look for the progress made by the police departments, we're hopeful the work will continue and to inform the police department and the larger Eugene community and relations between the police and the community will continue to evolve over time for the betterment of all of us. Finally, we would like to mention that we would not be able to do, the Civilian Review Board would not be able to do this really important work for our community if it weren't for the Police Auditor's Office that was led for years by Mark Gissner. Now it's in the very capable hands of Leah Pitcher, her staff, Beatrice and Vicki. And we also appreciate the support of Chief Skinner, the Internal Affairs Department. They continue to give us exemplary and stellar reports. I'm not going to talk about what's in our report because it's long. I assume that you'll look at it and see what it is, what's really important in there, the long view. And if you have questions about anything that we have done or where you see us going, I'm here to answer some questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I will just lead it off by saying, as I've said to the other reports this evening, how I appreciate reading this report and appreciate, since I'm not attending those meetings, getting a sense of the deliberations, the reasons particular cases were chosen, your reasoning around them. It's very revealing and very helpful to understand the kind of challenges that that officers are facing and the kinds of frustrations that the community is facing. And I very much appreciate the commitment that the entire CRB has towards our community and just improving quality of work. It's a huge commitment, and when reading this report makes it really clear how huge that commitment is. So I wanted to thank you for that, and I appreciated your comment just now about one of the kind of two things stood out to me just now. Of a comment about younger officers being perhaps quicker to learn some new techniques because they don't have older habits that they need to change. And at the same time, I also recognize in reading a number of these cases that the lack of experience for a new officer makes it also very hard to navigate some of these situations that are confusing or tangled or emotional. And that really comes through in your report. So I very much appreciate the clarity there and appreciate your comment about learning to slow down encounters. And, it's kind of, we say de-escalation, but part of it is actually just slowing it down, right? And so very valuable. Are there any counselors with other comments or questions? Okay, well, we appreciate your work very, very much, and the commitment to, creating a safe community for us all and a better public safety system. So thank you all very, very much. And,
can I say, just side note, Mark wanted me to say hello to everyone. I invite him to come and present tonight, and he did not take me up on it. But he did want to pass on his greetings, so thank you. And I really need to thank the CRB for all of the work they did. I threw a lot at them last year, just a lot. And I'm really grateful that they took it all as well as they did.
Right. Yes, it was a big year all around, so there's a wealth of information and embodied in both of your reports and lots to build on. So we really appreciate that, and send my regards back to Mark, please. We miss him. We'd love to see him back in Eugene someday soon. So thank you all very much. With that, we are adjourned until our meeting at 7:30. Thank you.
Thank you.